I'm going to talk about Michaelmas, and I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit about, what everybody knows about. And then I'm going to bring in my research and see, and add that to that, so that's not, you're not going to hear the same thing about him. So what I'm going to do is, I always start with these two circles, that I always do? So this is kind of small, so I'll just draw them freehand. I'll put one here. This is the center of the circle, and there's the periphery. And so if you take the periphery to the center and draw another circle, you get the vesica, and the vesica is right here. And why this is so important is because in here, like I've said before, they always draw formative people. Yeah? And so they put Mary in here, they put Christ, they put Buddha. It depends, it's all different types of images are put in there. And so you have to think of why. Why don't they put it, why don't they put images here? Why is it always here? Another thing that's interesting about that is this is known as root 3. This line here is root 3, and that means the square root of 3, or threefold. But it's an unusual number. And so here, to show you again, what I did here was I put the center of this circle is right there, and the center of this circle is right there. You can see that. And so that right there, that almond shape, is the one I just drew, like this. But if I slide this to the center, now there are two circles, and they're both in the center, and if I slide them apart, like this, those two lines line up at root 3. Well, that's root 3 right there, those black lines. So this is important because it's been used throughout history about these two circles. Okay, so I want to read something about two dragons. So I always wondered, when I saw Michael with this big lizard, I used to always wonder, I've never seen a lizard like that before. And then it's because that lizard is in the spiritual world. It's not here. But after he did his deed, the lizard came down here. The only trouble is two of them came down. And the reason is because on earth everything is duality. Two eyes, two ears, two noses, everything is dual. So that makes sense that Rudolf Steiner would say there are two of these guys. So I always wondered what are they after? What do they want from me? We all got them. And what do they want? What are they after? What is their goal? And I think it's interesting what Rudolf Steiner does with this, because he uses these dragons, in a cube. So let me show you. If you draw a cube like this, and all you have to do is go to his seal, and he draws these two dragons, and they kind of look like this, and there's a part here and there's a part here that's coming in. On this side there are two also, here and here. And then they join together at the top, and then up here is their head. Now some of you have seen that, right? Yeah, so, to me, what's the deal with the cube? And, why, this guy over here, I'll put no, I won't put anything. But this guy over here has gotten together with this guy at the top of the cube and at the bottom of the cube. And then the guys on the side here, this guy over here, he's got his attention on the face and the side, and this guy's got his attention on the other side and the back. So my drawing isn't going to be perfect because I'm trying to encourage you to go look at the seal. But this is what he draws. And then he's got these two heads here. Okay, so What Rudolf Steiner says is that that this cube, okay, has its position in our body. So the front of this cube is our sternum here, the front of the chest. And the back of the cube is our spinal column. And the top of the cube is kind of here, our clavicle. And the other bottom of the cube is at a diaphragm. And the sides of the rib cage. So it's not really a perfect cube, is it? I mean, it's a little different. So then he draws another cube. And the other cube is in another drawing. And this is from a 1909 lecture he gave. And what he said was that we have from below is the astral body. And from above is the ego. And then from the side is the physical body. On this side is the etheric body. And this is the front side here, the back side here is sentient soul, and this is sentient body. Okay, so there's this one, and then there's this one. Okay, this one, all right, is in the big one. This is what I've discovered. It's in the big one. So apparently we've got these dragons that are really trying to get in to this guy. That's what my conclusion is what's going on. So, but what we have to look at is the balance between these two guys. If I take a string and on a stick like here, this is the balance. Yeah, it's like a scale. So if we put something on this side, like the Egyptians did, they put the heart on this side and the feather. You know that story, huh? They're trying to measure your life. Anyway, it's a scale, right? And if it balances, you go to heaven in Egypt, wherever that is. All right, so that's a balance. And of course, this is out of balance, right? You see the difference? Okay. So what do we do about this? If this is really the truth, what is this cube in the first place? What is this cube? And in my research, okay, I found something in that cube. So I'll tell you, this is what Rudolf Steiner said. He says, two dragons. He says, there's a battle between these two guys. They're battling, huh? One wants, win. Okay, the two dragons. The battle, he calls it, the battle, more than any other, is laid in the human heart. There, within the human heart, it is and has been waged since the last third of the 19th century. So that means now. This is going on right now in all of us. Okay. Decisive indeed will be that the human hearts do with this Michael impulse in the world and in the course of the 20th century. So what I have found was that inside the cube, through a transformation that I've found, that the middle part between the extreme of a tetrahedron that goes to an octahedron, which has a stellated tetrahedron on, right in the middle between these two extremes is the human heart. And that's the geometry of the human heart. And you're going to say, well, my heart doesn't look like that. But the reason it doesn't, okay, is because this is an archetype. This is a design. This is a geometry. Rudolf Steiner said that when he found out that there was a geometry, and he saw a geometry book, he knew he could prove the spiritual world through geometry. Okay, so I have found that if I put this into minimum surfaces, it turns into the left ventricle. So much so that I gave a conference in San Francisco a month ago to all doctors for 2 days. Okay, and not one of them came up and said that that was incorrect. Okay, so here we got these two guys, one on this side, one on this side. Okay, so we have a problem because it's in the cube. And the heart sits in the cube at root 3. Root 3. This is two-dimensional, this is three-dimensional. So, you thought this was out of balance, and it's not. Perfect balance in 3 dimensions. There's no more straight across, you guys. It's in 3 different directions, and also from the other 3 directions. And this is how the heart sits in the body, like this. That's why the heart is on this side of the body. Okay, so if this is the case, then what does this help us do? This angle helps us, that's the center right there, where the string is. That's the center. So what it means is that we are balancing before and after, right and left side, and from top to bottom. It's no more just this. Okay, we have to balance in 3 different angles. Okay, not angles, but we have to center ourselves between 6 points. The cube has 6. Well, let me put it this way. Okay, that balance right there, okay, is a lot harder than straight across, because we have to balance from here, 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 and here, and here. And that's what we have to work on. So that's a 3-dimensional balance. So what are they after? Well, they're after this. They do not want this balance to go on. Okay? They want to get hold of one of these sides. So this one's strong, this one's weak. And they may come at you from the bottom, they may come from your astral body, or they may come from your ego. Okay? They might come from the left or the right, which is the physical world and the etheric world. Like I said here. So RMN is on the left, and Lucifer is on the right. Lucifer is on the south, and RMN is the north. Okay, but he's not just there. Okay, there's a guy at the top and the bottom, and the other the front and the back. All right, so what we got to do is to figure out what to do about this. Okay, so this line right here represents a threshold. And above the threshold, everything looks like this. And below the threshold, it looks like this. And here's the difference. They're totally opposites. One is centric, going to the center, the other one is going to the periphery. Okay, so one of them wants the center of this one, and the other one wants the periphery of this one. And we can't allow that to happen. We have to balance those two. We can't be one or the other. That's what they want. Okay, so to find balance, okay, we have to look to the human heart. We want to see what they're after. If the heart is too expansive, it's like this, the heart takes this shape. This is called congestive heart failure. This is the geometry that leads to that condition. It is too peripheral. If we go to the other end, it's too constrictive, it looks like this. This is also heart failure. And in between, right in between, is the shape of the healthy heart. Okay. So we know that through shape alone, we have to balance. Okay. Another thing we have to balance, okay, is, this is really neat. I've shown this before. This is the layers in the muscles in the human heart. There are 8 layers, and I've found out that basically there are these 2. The same thing I drew up here. These are 2, except I cut and taped them together. These are 2. So if I roll up 1, okay, and what I discovered that I need to tape them together like this. And I kept rolling, and it came to 8 layers. Now what is happening in the heart is that the outside layer, okay, is going down. The outside. And then as you turn this out and take one layer off at a time, you'll see that the angle is changing. It's not as steep. Okay, and now it's starting to get almost straight across, and now it is straight across. And there's where I glued it together. And then if I keep unrolling it, okay, the lines start to go in the opposite direction. They start to go up until they get to the very inside, and they've completely reversed. And that's the shape that's going on in the human heart if you unroll it. So, a reversal. The heart is doing this. This part, the centric part, is doing this. The peripheral part is doing this. They're opposites. And what's the heart trying to do? It's trying to get here in the middle. But not always. Okay, so the most important thing to realize is that this balance that we have to get, not only does the heart say that it's doing this, it has 2 spirals in opposite directions, centric and peripheral, but this balance that you go on here with this piece, which is straight across, and this one which is at 36 degrees, which is root 3, is telling you that you have to do this to keep balanced. You have to do this. If you just stay here, it's going to get you good. You have to be able to go to an extreme, okay, in either direction, and bring yourself back. And you need to do that through an exercising too. You cannot be stuck, okay, in any of these corners. You cannot be stuck. You have to constantly move. So it's not static balance, it's active balance. So if you always try to avoid, okay, an unpleasant situation, I understand, but you can't do it. You have to take that anxiety, okay, and you have to feel it in such a way in your heart that you can take it to the other end, okay, and go to a more relaxed state or a more joyful state. But you can't stay there. You have to go back and forth through all these different forces that are coming in on us. So the more we get stuck, okay, the more one of those guys are winning. So the geometry of the heart is telling you that you have to have a balance in all 6 directions and that you can't be static. It has to constantly move. And then, when that happens, neither one of these guys win. So, if we have a relationship with somebody and someone is making up the difference between us that we can't, this person over here is more centric, and the other partner is more peripheral, and they balance each other, right? Okay, we can't do that anymore. We have to find relationships that are more balanced, okay, so that when one changes, okay, the other one also can change too. But if one changes that's peripheral, and the other one's centric, and this one starts to change into the centric, you're going to have a divorce. Okay, and that's what I've seen so many times when I taught college. All these people would come to college and change themselves, mainly women. They come back to college, a new career, whatever. Husband watches the TV. I'm not kidding you, that's what happens. The one changes, the other doesn't. In trouble. You need to change yourself. Everybody needs to change themselves. If there is a problem here, if you're stuck in one of these areas, you've got to pull into here or reverse it. And you have to do exercises that do this. You cannot get stuck, because that's what will happen is Ahriman will take in. He will come in, or Lucifer will come in. And these guys, they don't belong here with us, you know. Oh, okay, the representative of mankind is a perfect example. This guy's great. So when I first saw this, I knew nothing about it. Or the star, nothing. And when I saw it, I thought, what is this guy doing? So, I mean, really, no, I mean, you know, really. So I noticed that somebody's under the ground in a cave, and there's these two guys, and then there's this cloud thing here, going here. And then I see these hands, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is to watch Star Trek or something, you know. You know, I can't figure this thing out with this split hand. But I do notice, that the hands are like this. And this hand is also like this. Okay, so they told, well, that's to keep these two beings away. That's to push this one back and keep this one down here. But that's not what I saw. I mean, this isn't how you push somebody away. This is how you pull them together. And that's what's going on here. Is because I noticed that this guy's kind of up on his elbow. You know, he's kind of getting up. He doesn't like it, but he's kind of getting up. I mean, no, this guy doesn't like it at all, because he's bending down, right? So this is what the representative mankind is trying to tell us, is that we can't deny these guys. They may be all help. So what we got to do is bring them into a balance, bring them to a balance in us. And that's kind of what happens here with these two. Okay, there's still a problem there, but they're more balanced, that's for sure. And it looks like they're trying to help each other. And I've heard that they were trying to help each other because these two guys aren't working. So, another thing I saw is when I looked at the picture, I looked at the face that he had carved. Okay, it's too bad it's not bigger, but if you can get it bigger, and you know, look in the books, and I saw that, you know, if I carved the face that was supposed to be more Luciferic, you know, after I learned, and this is supposed to be more Ahrimatic, then I would have taken everything down on this side towards Ahriman, and this side I would have taken up. And that's what he did. Because if you look at the brow, it goes up like that. And this side, it goes down. And this part of the mouth goes down, this part goes up. So if you wanna see a Luciferic person, or on this thing, all I have to do is take a mirror. And put this one on this side here. Oh, wow, look at that guy, you know, and then you put it on this side, whoa, he's really out there. And the idea is the balance. We're trying to balance this, okay, and that's what he's trying to do. Because there's a battle between here. And Rudolf Steiner says that between in our head, there's only a thin sheet, which is the ego that's coming in. And on each side of that sheet, the battle is really going on big time close. And that's why he has done this. But he didn't do it here in the chest. And then down here, I also noticed that not only is he pulling this up, but he's got his foot on him too. So I have a hunch, you know, he's got to keep that guy at a distance. This one I don't know if he's so afraid of, or he has to work that hard with, but he does. So that's what I saw here, and that's also the balance that Rudolf Steiner is trying to indicate. This is why Rudolf Steiner draws the cubes, because that's where the heart is, okay, and that's what they're after. Because in between these two, as you have this threshold, which is supposed to be, of course, a balance, as represents a balance. So what this threshold, is bigger than I've drawn it. This is the Michael impulse. This is the feelings. This is where we have to work, and on the heart. Not here, not here, but the balance between the two. And that's the impulse. And that's the impulse we have to develop. And we have to develop in ourselves, and we have to help others do it too. We can't let the other suffer like that because they're suffering because of one of these guys. So we have to help ourselves, and we have to help the other. Okay, so one of the things I thought that I wanted to show you is this. When I gave this lecture to the heart people, the cardiologists, okay, I studied 50 research papers like this one. I studied 50 of them. They're on the internet, you can get them. This is cardiothoracic surgery in Europe. Okay, you can look at them, oh my gosh, I had to learn their language, I had to learn their abstract, what are they doing, what are they thinking, and of course I had to make sense. And on, and they have results, and then they have whatever. Okay, and some of them are, a lot thicker than this. Anyway, my pile's that big. So before the lecture, I went through it. So I wanted to know if I could bring them something which Michael L. wants. He wants us to bring things that aren't visible into visibility. Okay, he wants to bring the spiritual world into the world. So I thought, well, how do I bring this kind of stuff to these doctors? So I studied how they think. And what I found was really neat. There's a quote in here, and it says, now follow me here, because what I'm doing here is I'm showing them something they can't explain. Now, what they've done is they took magnets, okay, and they make images off magnets, okay, magnetic imaging of the heart. And what they can do with this magnetic imaging is they can see the way the blood comes in, the way it disperses, it twists, and then goes back out. Okay, but they haven't got a clue why. Why? Because they only study the phenomena. They only know the physical. That's what they're trying to do, and they're doing a good job. But they get to the point in the phenomena, and they don't understand. For instance, here he says, the precise explanation for these movements is lacking. Well, I can show it. No secret. Now, why is it that they don't know this? Is because they're still with the scalpel. All they can do is cut it open. Okay? They can measure it and get some calipers, or they can put it in this magnetic imaging. Okay? But that's not where the heart is involved. That's not where it comes from. Okay? It is a spiritual organ. Absolutely a spiritual organ. And if you don't have an approach to the spirit, all you got is physical. So our deed, okay, is to help these heart specialists, cardiologists, physiologists, with their studies. We're not supposed to be competing with science. We're not supposed to be competing with scientific experiments that are based on the physical. We're supposed to help them. We're supposed to cooperate. So he says here that the base, okay, I made a heart model here of the inside of the left ventricle. This is where all the blood, this is the shape of the architecture of the left ventricle where the red blood comes in. Okay, first off, they don't know where suction comes from. Suction is there, but they don't know how. How does it do it? Spiritual science knows. So what's interesting about this is that this particular shape, okay, is the end of this process. This last one looks like this. But the first one looks like this. This is how we start out with a tetrahedron. This is known as warmth or fire. Physically, it's known as fire. Okay, so when I take this through the process and I get where this can't go any further, I took this one out, this one, and I put it back in here. And in it went. And then I switched it again through this process. And then I came to the human heart. But what's interesting is this part right here explains where the suction comes from. This is known as an octahedron. And this is a tetrahedron, and it's exactly 1/2 the size of this one. That's amazing. Look. This is geometry. This is accurate. No cheating. Yeah? You can't adjust stubs because the compass goes around and where it crosses, forget it. All right, so that's what this is. So what it says here is what it says in a research paper. It says that this is called the base in cardiologists. This is called the base. This is the midsection, and this is the apex of the heart. Okay, it says here that the filling is in a clockwise motion. So when the heart fills with blood from the lungs, okay, it moves in a clockwise direction. So that would be this way. Then it says that the clockwise motion of the base and the apex, there's a change to an anti-clockwise motion at the base while the apex continues to go clockwise. So what that means is that here is the whole thing turning clockwise, and as I bring this closer together, okay, it moves clockwise too. See that? But then when it empties, it reverses. Now here it is, okay, it's going in this direction, and then this part reverses. This is how suction is created to cause rapid filling, to fill this up, which stops the blood, and then it reverses and goes out the aorta. So this part is deaccelerating, and this part is accelerating. Another two sides to this. Acceleration, deacceleration. This is in the heart. This is what's going on in the heart. Another balancing thing. That if we are too fast in our thinking or too fast in our actions, we have to slow down, If we're too slow, we got to speed up. See how it all works? This is what the heart is saying. This is whoever designed a heart, whoever this guy was, okay, this is the idea. This was the idea behind the human heart. So, look at this. That's just absolutely gorgeous. They measured this with their magnets. Okay, they have no problem measuring it, but they don't know what all this is. So I take this to them. They're amazed. Oh, no, that makes sense. Well, no. Yeah. So I did that with about 8 things. Now, why is that important? It's because we have to take what we learn in spiritual science. We have to learn what we discovered through art, okay, to science. And we have to do it in a cooperative way, not in a competitive way, not competing with them or turning them, running them down. What we have to do is build them up, okay? And how do we do that? We bring them things like this. So it's very important that whatever we do, okay, we try to bring it into the mainstream. These were mainstream doctors and enteral doctors too. But mainstream is what I was after because I want to see their reaction. So what happened with the mainstream doctor? Okay, one, okay, took out a patent for me on this form. I couldn't afford that. Boy, I patented it. Matter of fact, 2 patents. This woman came back in the next week, I want to patent that other one. They're up in the little gallery up there, both of them. A 13-sided form. I found a 13-sided form that went around the 7-sided form. And the 13-sided form is supposed to, according to what I've heard, is to protect and help rebuild the heart at night when we leave. To reconstruct the heart at night. Because it's a dual. And the dual is, in geometry, is one that completely surrounds the other, lawfully. So, if we can help, and what did the other doctor do? The other doctor I had made a mixer. And the other doctor wants to take that to Germany and have it tested in one of the laboratories where he is affiliated with. And I made him sign a contract that he wouldn't give it out, that he had it for 90 days, and I wanted the results. He signed it. So I have these doctors, and another doctor the other doctor invited me to a conference with cardiologists. Now, I'm not a doctor and I don't care to be one. But the thing is that you can't be afraid of them. I mean, they've got all this language and they went to school for a long time, and they're dealing with the human body. But so what? We have to approach them, and that takes courage. That's what all this is about with this festival, is to have the courage to take spiritual science and put it into science, because the spirit is art and the science is a study of measuring that art and trying to develop it. Okay, that's I can answer questions or whatever. I was told to keep it short, so I did. Well, another thing here, you see, since you said that, here's another scientific report. And the scientific report says, that the constrictive heart has a mesh, which I showed you with that circle. And it's like this. Okay, the constrictive heart has a mesh that looks like this. I'll try to get a spot here. So the mesh is like this, and then when it fills, it's about this shape, like this, and stops. A congested heart failure, the mesh looks like this. And it goes to about here. This one is expanded. There is an accumulation of blood, and not enough gets out. And it gets congested and swollen and leads to failure. So, what is the idea of this? The idea is to be able to go from here to here and to here. The heart is telling us that we have to have this flexibility to go from this to this and back. There's another sense of balance. So they draw this, showing this is the shape of the fibers, the myocardic fibers that the shape takes when you twist that and so forth. And now I can show them why, it has this shape. Believe it or not, they do not know, the heart people do not know this geometry. Don't know it. They write about it, they know there's 8 layers, and they know it does a reversal, but they haven't got a clue how it works. See, this is the artistic side. Yeah? We have to take this to the science side, and then we help each other. And then we get people interested in Rudolf Steiner, and we get people interested in spiritual science, not just stuck in the physical. That's what Michaelmas is all about, to try to get us to do this. So anyway, these are, see, here's what you do is you get to the end of the report and then they have resources. The references, where they got them from. Oh my goodness. It's unbelievable. They put a lot of work in it and they spend most of their time trying to back up each other. Which is okay. Just have to know how they think and how their research is oriented. So the whole thing about this I'm trying to bring here is that we need to balance. We absolutely need to balance, and then protect our heart, because that's what they're after. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. So I can ask any questions you might have. You can ask. I need someone to come up here to help me here and to interpret the question. So probably can do this one, but yeah.
You were mentioning exercises to make the heart more flexible. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's one that really works for me. You'll probably think, oh my gosh. I'll take this, the chalk. And what I do is I put it on a table, yeah, and I study it. And I study the angles. There are a lot of different angles here, and I see there's some green mixed up, and I see that this is a little shorter than this one, and it's just got a little angle here, and it's a little orange here, okay? And then I leave that. And then I look at the periphery. I don't look at that. I look at this around it. And I see what's around it. And I won't tell you my experiences, but try it. You look around the periphery. Don't look at the object. Don't look at the object. Look around the periphery of it. And then go back to the center. Oh, see, it's green. It has a little thing here and a little thing here. Then go back to the periphery again. Don't look at the object. And look at the periphery. You'll be amazed, if you do this long enough, what's going on. And then you make it a little wider. The periphery a little wider. And then you make your study of this more concentrated into a point. And then the whole goal is not to do either one. The whole goal is to do both at the same time. So what we have to do is to practice to see the center and the periphery at the same time. Because when you're studying like this, okay, and you get an intuition, the only way you get intuition is to get inspired. Okay? The only way you can get inspired, okay, is to work on images, lawful images. So when you get the inspiration, okay, intuition, if you have your periphery open, you'll see movement. Okay, and that's really good because you need to be aware of everything that's around you when you walk around. Okay, so you've got to watch where you're going, but there's no reason why you can't watch the periphery at the same time. And that's the exercise. So what you do is you find a house way off in the distance, and you go try to get in the windows. Okay, as close as you can into the windows or the curtains or whatever you can, even though it's far away. At the same time, you have to see the weather all around the house. And you try to get as far out as you can in the periphery, and then back to the center, and back to the periphery, and back to the center, until you get both of them together. The heart loves it. That's what the heart wants to do. It likes it. It likes this thing. It doesn't like, the heart is here, of course, you know, but it's got this experience that it wants. Oh, we want that experience. We don't want to just be sitting around balanced. What a bore, right? I don't know how they, you know, a lot of cultures will sit and watch their navel. You know, I can never get into that. I thought, you know, it's just not three-dimensional. But there is benefits to all these different meditations and all the different cultures. They all have their background that are really serious, important. But as human beings, we need to experience a whole bunch of stuff, okay, and not just one side or the other. So that's one exercise.
Could you say more about this sequence that you described in these cubes here? I didn't follow what you were talking about.
Well, I didn't explain it very well. Okay, the sequence. Well, the thing about this whole thing is that I didn't start out to study the heart, the last of my desires. The only thing I want to do is to find a seven-sided form. That was it. So I had no motive, yeah, other than that. No motive. And I had no idea if I could do it. And I had no background in trying to find one that was done already. And there are a number of seven-sided forms other than this one. And some of them are equal areas, which is what I was after. But none of them with this configuration. So I found out that if I take a tetrahedron and put it into a cube, you know, I found out that this, and these are Platonic forms, okay, tetrahedron and the octahedron. And no one in the history of geometry ever spun one inside the other. They put them inside, and they cut the corners off and stuff like that. Nobody spun it. I tried to spin it. And when I spun it, it followed an order. And that order, I've got there on these little circles. So what I did is I put crosses on the cubes so I could see that this one was in the middle of the first one. This was in the corner of the first one. Okay, and this one was in the middle of the second one, and this was at the very center. So I knew I went from center to periphery. Of course, the peripheral one is this last one. This one. So, this one right here, I found before I put it into a cube. I found this form before I had any idea it was a cube. And I made it, I wanted to find out if it would go into a cube, because the cube represents the earth. Okay, so I put it in there, and I noticed that it lined up like this. And I drew the squares, and I thought, oh my gosh, what happened if I just, kept going across here, which is root 2. That's the base of the heart, is root 2. Root 3 is rejected. Root 3 is formative forces. Rudolf Steiner calls them formative forces. So that's what this is. This is formative. That's formative forces. So, in this relationship, his sword should be down like this. And I see the sword like this. Michael has the sword like this. Put the sword down. Because this is the sword. This is the sword that kills those two dragons in our heart, because it's balanced. So, when I did this, I couldn't believe that I came to a tetrahedron. I couldn't believe it. So the heart is the geometry between warmth and air. And the air part has warmth in it. This part is air, and this part is warmth. It's been reduced in size. Now, Rudolf Steiner says that this isn't air on the physical side, but what's on the side of the spiritual side? Light. So inside your heart, you have light. And you also have fire, which is warmth. And you know that light is cold and warmth is warm. And we have another balance, you see? This just goes on and on and on. So I'm telling you guys, you've got to try to get a balance in your life if it's out of balance. Well, mine's not out of balance, So it's so interesting is that the outside of the heart is all about warmth. But the inside is all about light and warmth. A balance. Ronald, yes.
The one's the chestahedron.
What's that now?
The middle one's the chestahedron.
This guy, let's see. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, there he is.
Okay. It's just half.
Yeah, that's him. And Ronald helped me get the mathematics together to find out that when the chestahedron opens up, why do they call it chestahedron, right? Because it's in the chest. All the other ones aren't in the chest, okay? I get this criticism. Okay, well, the tetrahedron, nobody asked the tetrahedron after anybody. And I said, well, it's because there's only one. But there's lots of heptahedrons. So this one is the only heptahedron that's in the chest. So yeah, that's the middle one, and Ronald helped me find the mathematics, and this dihedral, which is how much it opens up like this, is 94 point da da da. So he found that out. That equals 7 equal surfaces. But I wanted Ronald to do this for me, and the reason I wanted to is because when I don't have that, the mathematicians are going nuts. I don't care. But that's okay, so Ronald helped me with that. But, the mathematicians wouldn't have anything to get balanced if it wasn't for artists. They don't have anything to measure unless you give them something. That's okay. But Ronald has lots to do, I'm telling you. So I'm only, when I think the mathematicians or doctors or physiologists or these scientists, I'm just kidding, you know, I don't have anything against them or anything like that. I'm just kind of, that's all. So yeah, that's the middle one right there, Ronald. That's good. So when a mathematician says it's not accurate, so I don't care, you know. And the reason I don't care, this is why I don't care, is because this is an archetype. And an archetype is not perfect. It's not perfect. There was only one person, okay, that was perfect in this world, and not here now. The rest of us are imperfect. That's why we're here. We're trying to get perfected on our own, by ourselves, and by others helping us, and so forth and so on. Put in an environment, put into a family, put into a karma. Not because we're perfect, but because we're imperfect. And that, like I've said before, the imperfectness is our gift. If you didn't have any way to know how you were imperfect, okay, you didn't get a gift at all. If you think you're perfect already, you know, wait till next time. So anyway, that's kind of him.
Last time you were here, you spoke about the water project in the Philippines. Anything new?
Yeah, I have the water project in the Philippines. I found a way to make this into a device that creates oxygen. So since that time, okay, I had a medical company contact me and wanted me to design a mixer that had 5 and 7 coming together in a sphere. And so anyway, after a while I did it. And the Philippines are still working on it. Okay, they're still working on this device. What the holdup is that it's hard to get a device like this into a facility that's already up and running, and they already got a mixer. They already got the best. So it's hard to get in. And they're trying to get into a beer place, San Miguel Beer. And the reason they are trying to get it in there is because the water there is really contaminated after brewing beer, and they can't just dump it. Okay, they have to clean it first. So this device creates oxygen. And I put these two together, ran them for about 10 minutes to see what they did, and then I left it overnight, went back out to my deck the next morning, and the water was yellow. Oh, brother, you know, I mean, I'm supposed to clean water, you know? I turned the thing yellow. And why it turned it yellow is because these two shafts I use were made of steel. They just went to rust immediately. Oxygen was so high, it just attacked the steel and turned the whole water yellow. So the oxygen this thing produces is tremendous, and that's why the Philippines, they'll finally get at it. They'll finally get at it. And then Jordan and I figured out a good name for this, called it a vortex organizer. So the vortex organizer is the one I told you that the doctor is going to take to Germany. I'm pretty sure he's going to do this, to have it tested in one of the laboratories. Because it implodes the water, which means that it expels it from internally. Okay, no other mixer does that. So that's a possibility, okay, that money could come, okay, in such a way that I could establish a laboratory, okay, so I don't work on the kitchen table for 12 years. I'd have a laboratory where people could come, okay, and study with me, and then leave. And then other people come and study whatever. And why that would be good is because it would help me do things I can't do. Because I have the Decatria, which is a 13-sided form, which is an outside, and this is a 7-sided. Okay, I still have other forms that I haven't had time to study that haven't been here before. And the only reason that I've stopped making these forms is because I need to work on the ones I have, because I realized that I could see these things, so I can see them and bring them in really quick, whereas this took me years. But I got capacity. I built my capacity up. That's why it's important to work on something. All of you came here to do something. I'm telling you, all of you did. And what you got to do is find out what that is. And like I was telling the group today, you have to find your bliss, which comes from Joseph Campbell. And what's your bliss? Your bliss is what you came here to do. What you get excited about. So let's see, I go back to that question. What else I can tell you? I didn't give it to the medical people because I need to test it. I have to make sure of it before I give it out. That's why I waited so long. I waited 8 years before I gave this out. Now it's out. I gave it away. And why I give things away is because I've given everything away. There's only one thing I haven't given away, and that's that Venus form I have out there. I didn't tell anybody how I did that. But everything else I give away on the internet. You go on my website, everything's there. So why do I do that? People ask me why you do that, and the reason I do it is because more comes. So I don't harbor these inside me and carry them around with me and I'm not going to get this, I don't do that. Then things come, more stuff comes. And that's more important to me than having these things to myself. I give them to the world. There's a patent, and the only reason that the patent came out is to protect the person who wants to use it. Because patents, to me, how I interpret a patent is that they're for honest people. Patents keep honest people honest. But they never stop the crook. You put a deadbolt on your house. That's to keep the honest people honest. Listen, a person who gets in your house, they can get in without that thing. That's nothing. That's the way I look at patents. So if I give a thing away to somebody to use, I give them a patent with it so they feel secure. They're going to feel like, well, I got some protection. I want them to have some protection if they want. Because I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in really this mixer and everything. That's really fun. It's not my interest. So I want other people who's interested in exploring this, not me. I got other things I want to do. I got too many other things that are coming in. So, if I get a studio, I can do more. So that's what I'm working towards, is to try to get one. And then I can share not only the work with other people too. And there are some people helping me, that's for sure. The mixer is so beautiful. It just takes a vortex and just takes it right down to the very bottom of the sphere that's this big, and right in the middle it implodes. So it divides it exactly into half this way and half this way. It's full of bubbles. It's really neat. But I didn't start out to make a mixer at all.
So maybe we'll draw it to a close, and maybe you'll stick around for another 15 minutes.
Sure.
I think for people who do need to leave, and people who want to stay for a minute. But thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, very welcome.